He was just a teenager when he discovered his love for technology and the art of hacking. Little did he know, his passion would lead him down a path of high-tech mischief and legal drama. Kevin Mitnick is a name that strikes fear into the hearts of some and fascination in others. He's one of the most infamous hackers of all time and has a roller coaster ride of a story. Let's go back to the 1970s.
The event is so momentous that historians may one day view it as a landmark in the decline of the British Empire. The Beatles are breaking up.
When Mitnick's hacking journey began, when he was just a teenager, he was fascinated by the inner workings of phones and soon discovered that he could manipulate the system to make free long-distance calls. This was just the beginning of his criminal career. In the 1980s, Mitnick began to focus his efforts on computer systems. He hacked into the networks of some of the largest companies in the world, such as IBM, Motorola, and Nokia, stealing sensitive information and trade secrets. He had become one of the most notorious hackers in the world. Here's an interesting video by IBM, one of the companies Mitnick hacked. They moved these atoms to create the smallest video ever. Here's an interview of Kevin Mitnick talking about his encounters with the FBI by the company Big Think.
When the government was chasing me, I wanted to get a sense of how close they were. And to me, this was a game. It was kind of like I was a little bit insane, and I treated my fugitive status as like a big video game. Unfortunately, it had real consequences. And why I did this psychologically is I love putting myself in dangerous situations and then trying to work my way out of them. Now, I don't know why I like doing this, but I did. So what I did is I hacked into the cellular provider in Los Angeles that serviced the FBI cell phones numbers of the agents that were chasing me. So to make a long story short, I was able to get the cell phone numbers of the agents, and then by hacking into the cellular provider, I could monitor where they physically were, physically in Los Angeles. I could also monitor who they were calling and who was calling them. So based on my traffic analysis and my location data, I was able to find out if the feds ever got close. And in one time, they did. I had an early warning system set up in 1992 when I was working as a private investigator in Los Angeles. And when the warning system was tripped off, I found out that the FBI was actually at my apartment, and I was a mile away in Calabasas. But
He steps out onto his balcony in Raleigh, North Carolina. FBI agents taking their position outside of the house. Journalist John Markov watching from the street. They burst in, draw their guns, but find nothing. And the man fiercely denies that he is Kevin Mitnick. He's so convincing, the FBI agents are about to leave. But then an FBI agent finds a ski jacket in the cupboard. He empties out the pockets, and a pay stub falls out.
Most wanted computer hacker is behind bars.
Kevin shares a large holding cell with 60 other roommates. He doesn't eat for 2 days because the food isn't kosher. In the court, all eyes are on Kevin. He's charged with 14 counts of wire fraud, 8 counts of possession of unauthorized access devices, interception of wire electronic communications, unauthorized access to a federal computer, and causing damage to a computer. His appeals for bail are turned down by every single court in the U.S., including the Supreme. Kevin says his extra charges are an injustice, and his treatment is a denial of his constitutional rights. But nobody will believe him. He has one last idea. But then a group of officers storm into the cell and throw him into solitary confinement. Here's a funny story about Kevin and the FBI.
The FBI wasn't hunting me at the time. I wasn't a fugitive, but I knew they were after me because they had sent this informant who was actually a criminal hacker to befriend me because this guy got himself into trouble for credit card fraud and he became a cooperator/informant. They said the quote was, "You'd have a real feather in your cap if you could help us nail Mitnick." What I worked out is I was able to get this informant's telephone number. Back in the day, this was before caller ID even existed in California because it wasn't tariffed yet. So I was able through the phone company to add the caller ID feature to a friend's phone. And then this informant, the only way I could reach him, he'd never give me his home phone, he'd only give me his pager number. So what I did is at 3 in the morning, I paged him to call the number where I added the caller ID feature and is able to find his home phone number. Because who's gonna be at home at 3 in the morning? Now I had his home phone number. And then I was able to look at his phone bill because I was able to, hack into Pacific Bell back in the day. What I saw was some interesting numbers that this guy was calling. They eventually worked out to be direct numbers at the FBI offices in Los Angeles to agents. So they had a number that would answer with somebody's voicemail that would say they're on the White Collar Crime Squad 3. So I easily worked out that matching the cell phone numbers that belonged to these agents based on the guy's pattern of phone calls. And so I had a device, and I was working as a private investigator in LA at the time, that I interfaced with my computer and a scanner. So anytime these phone numbers that I classified as FBI cell phones came into my location, into my area, I'd get a warning on my computer, it would beep. One morning I go into the office and I hear this beeping like it's like you didn't disable an alarm. Unbelievably, the beeping is coming from my office and I go, what's that? And I walk up to the computer and it's my early warning system detected one of the FBI cell phones. And I'm going, oh my God, they're here. What I see from the data it captured is that phone called a payphone number that was across the street from my apartment at 6:30 in the morning. So they were there, but it was like 2 hours earlier. That's interesting. Why would the FBI be at my apartment, but they wouldn't arrest me? Then it hit me. They were there to get a search warrant. So with this foreknowledge that the FBI was at my residence, I decided to take anything related to computers, all my floppy disks, everything out of the apartment and put it at a friend's house. And then I went to the local Winchell's Donut House and bought a dozen donuts. And on the box I wrote FBI donuts. I stuck it in the refrigerator. And then on the outside of the refrigerator, I don't know if you're familiar with the Intel Inside logo. It says Intel Inside. I wrote FBI donuts inside and I stuck it to the refrigerator. And once you know it, at 6 in the morning, my doorknob is wiggling. I jump out of bed because I know that the FBI doesn't do that. They knock on the door. And I actually go to the door and I open it and there's like a team of FBI agents. And they go, you're Kevin Mitnick, we have a search warrant. And they all poured in. They're all looking for all the computers, the floppy disks and all this stuff. They find they even call a supervisor because there was nothing there. And then of course, eventually they go to the refrigerator and they see the note, they open it up and they see the FBI donuts. Unfortunately, they didn't eat one of them, but that tipped them off that I knew they were coming, so they were pretty pissed.
Might change a lot of things in a negative way. I mean, he's trying so hard to get it, to at least get a trial, and then this comes up.
Christmas Day passes with no incidents. The hack on Yahoo was a hoax by members of the Free Kevin movement. There was no logic bomb. After 4 years of prison and solitary confinement, Kevin pleads guilty to 4 counts of wire fraud, 2 counts of computer fraud, and 1 count of illegally intercepting a wire communication.
I didn't think of the consequences when I was engaging in this behavior. I just did it. I'd copy the code, store it on a computer, and go right on to the next without even reading the code.
Interesting.
You know, and that's a complete different motivation of somebody who's really out for financial gain or a foreign country or a competitor trying to obtain, information like economic espionage, for instance.
Right. I hate to suggest a waste of your talent, but as I listen to you, I think you'd make a great lawyer.
Well, I don't know if you're convicted of a felony if they'd allow you to be admitted to the bar.
To do.
Kevin Mitnick is released from prison after nearly 5 years. While Kevin was on his hacking spree, his exploits seemed impossible to the outside world. By the time the sun hits his face, the world needs his skills. So, soon after his release, he testifies in front of the Senate and advises on how to better protect computer systems from attacks